Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome everyone. Today we are studying from the Bhagavad-Gita, second chapter, verse 23. We'll recite the verse 23. We'll recite the verse. Nainaṁ chindanti śastrāṇi. Nainaṁ dahati pāvakaḥ. Na cainaṁ kledayanty na śoṣayati mārutaḥ. Nainaṁ chindanti śastrāṇi. Nainaṁ dahati pāvakaḥ. Na cainaṁ kledayanty na śoṣayati mārutaḥ. Nainaṁ chindanti śastrāṇi. Nainaṁ dahati pāvakaḥ. Na cainaṁ kledayanty na śoṣayati mārutaḥ. Word to word meaning. Na, never. Enam, this soul. Chindanti, can cut to pieces. Śastrāṇi, weapons. Na, never. Enam, this soul. Dahati, burns. Pāvakaḥ, fire. Na, never. Cha, also. Enam, this soul. Kledayanti, moistens. Āpaḥ, water. Na, never. śoṣayati, dries. Mārutaḥ, wind. Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti-Vedanta Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. The soul can never be cut to pieces by any weapon, nor burned by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by the wind. Purport. All kinds of weapons, swords, flame weapons, rain weapons, tornado weapons, etc. are unable to kill the spirit soul. It appears that there were many kinds of weapons made of earth, water, air, ether, etc. in addition to modern weapons of fire. Even the nuclear weapons of the modern age are classified as fire weapons, but formerly there were other weapons made of all different types of material elements. Fire weapons were counteracted by water weapons, which are now unknown to modern science. Nor do modern scientists have knowledge of tornado weapons. Nonetheless, the soul can never be cut into pieces nor annihilated by any number of weapons, regardless of scientific devices. The Mayavadi cannot explain how the individual soul came into existence simply by ignorance and consequently became covered by the illusionary energy. Nor was it ever possible to cut the individual souls from the original Supreme Soul. Rather, the individual souls are eternally separated parts of the Supreme Soul. Because they are atomic individual souls, eternally sanatana, they are prone to be covered by the illusionary energy, and thus they become separated from the association of the Supreme Lord, just as the sparks of a fire, although one in quality with the fire, are prone to be extinguished when out of the fire. In the Varaha Purana, the living entities are described as separated parts and parcels of the Supreme. They are eternally so, according to the Bhagavad-Gita also. So even after being liberated from illusion, the living entity remains a separate identity, as is evident from the teachings of the Lord to Arjuna. Arjuna became liberated by the knowledge received from Krishna, but he never became one with Krishna. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Jayo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I welcome everyone, and please give your blessings so that I can speak for my own purification as well as a service to all the Vaishnavas assembled and for the pleasure of Srila Prabhupada and Srila Gurudev. So we are in the second chapter, the chapter titled as Contents of the Gita Summarized. So in this chapter we will see the entire Gita philosophy of the 18 chapters is summarized, because Krishna he talks about the Jnana Yoga, he talks about the Karma Yoga, he talks about the Bhakti-yoga, and how ultimately one has to follow Krishna's instructions. So we will see a little prelude. What happened here? Why this discussion of the spirit soul is coming? In this context, we see Arjuna is confused and he is bewildered in his duty. So he seeks guidance from Krishna, saying that I feel very lost. Now I accept you as my spiritual master, so please give me the direction. What should be my duty to be performed? And today's section falls in the Jnana section, dealing from verses 11 to the 30. And this Jnana is about the knowledge about the soul. And Krishna is telling the soul, there is no death to the soul, so you fight, you raise your level. So today in this class we will be discussing 3 different themes. First is different kinds of weapons available during Krishna's time to the modern times. And second would be defeating Mayavadi philosophy. And the third is how bhakti is fine-tuning our lives. Now here again we come back to the context. Arjuna is saying he's on the battlefield and he's seeing both the armies. And he's seeing everyone in terms of his friends, well-wishers and relatives on both the sides. Now what is Krishna saying here? Krishna is saying you fight and nothing will happen to them. Why? Because the soul can never be destroyed. And it can never be cut by any weapon. It cannot be burnt by fire. It cannot be moistened by water or withered by wind. Now, so Prabhupada is saying that different kinds of weapons available, like the weapons made up of swords, flame weapons, rain weapons, torrento weapons. So if you take the Krishna pastimes, when Krishna is fighting with Bhaumasura, and Krishna is facing Lord Shiva, because Lord Shiva is on the side of Bhaumasura, and Krishna is counteracting all the weapons of Lord Shiva. He counteracts Brahmastra with the Brahmastra. He counteracts a wind weapon with a mountain weapon. He counteracts a fire weapon with a rain weapon, and Lord Shiva's Pashupatra weapon with Narayanastra weapon. And again, there is another instance during a fight with Narakasura. Again, Krishna is fighting. With his club, he is destroying all kinds of rock fortifications. With his arrows, he is destroying all kinds of weapons. With his disc, he is destroying the fire, water and wind. And with his sword, there is a pasa called Murapasa cable. He is destroying that. And with the sound of the conch shell, which is indicating as the ether, this is the ether weapon. With the sound of the conch shell, he destroys, Lord Gadadhara destroys the magical seals around the fortress where Narakasura has captured 16,000 young maidens. So we are seeing how there is in the Vedic times, how there are different kinds of weapons. And now Arjuna also has an equivalent, a wide range of arsenal of weapons. He's also gifted with so many different weapons. The weapons which are of fiery in nature, watery in nature, wind in nature, ether, and many things. Now Arjuna is still in a dilemma. Okay, they are not the body, okay, they are passing from one body to another body. And then in the previous verse, Krishna is telling, just like as someone puts the new garments upon leaving the old garments, so they may be changing their bodies. But what if my astras, which are of divine nature, will hurt them? Say for example, you're removing your old clothes and sometimes you pull hard then you may even hurt yourself. So Arjuna is thinking, because of my divine weapons, maybe I will hurt them, even though they are soul. So Krishna is assuring him, saying that, no, nainaṁ. He's saying that no, they cannot harm the soul. Anything that is material, that cannot harm the soul, because the soul is not material. Yes. So we see here, Krishna is saying, by any weapon, that is the earthly component, and burnt by fire, this is a fire component, moistened by water, or withered by wind. Can you think of any such thing which cannot be moistened by water, or cannot be burnt, or cannot be withered by wind? Any material element will undergo either one or all of these combinations. They have their effect on the material items. Say for example, you take the fire. The fire, if it's in a fire, can be very devastating. There are forest fires. It kills acres and acres, areas of living entities, right? And if you see wind, there are hurricanes and tornadoes. We are harassed by it. Or you see water, there are tsunamis and floods. Or you see the weapons, they cause brutal damages to the body. So, but then Krishna is again and again, he's saying, nainaṁ. That means this cannot hurt the soul, because the soul is non-material. And here Krishna uses a different approach. He's not straight away saying that the spirit soul is not going to be hurt, but he's saying nainaṁ, this cannot hurt, that cannot hurt. It's just like an example. This is a book, right? But if I don't say directly this is a book, but I will say that this is not pen, this is not board, this is not laptop, this is not mic, this is not pencil, this is not an eraser. So I'm telling what it is not, but I'm not telling what it is. So similarly, Krishna is using all the material terms to explain that this won't hurt it, this won't hurt it. That means it should be above material. That is what Krishna is pointing out. And what is that non-material? That is the spirit soul. So he is using this analogy to make us understand that the soul is indestructible. It can never come under destruction at any point of time. Now, Prabhupada here, he is explaining how Mayavadis explain, Mayavadis fail to explain how individual soul is simply by ignorance, and it's covered by the illusionary energy. Mayavadis think that, the soul is just, it has no individual existence. So Prabhupada defeats, saying that at any point of the time, the soul remains an intact part and parcel of the Lord. It can never be, no one can remove the relationship with the Lord. Like Prabhupada gives an example of the fire. As long as the fire sparks are with the fire, they have the identity. But they get extinguished only if they lose their identity. But it doesn't mean that the fire spark doesn't exist. So the similar way, the soul always exists. But when they are misidentified with their material consciousness, they identify differently. And because of that identification, they think they are separated. But actually they are always in relationship with the Lord. They never become one with the Lord, but they are always in relationship with the Lord. That separatedness is there only because of the quantity. Qualitatively, we are equal with the Lord, but quantitatively, we are very, very insignificant. What is the measurement of the soul? The soul is 1/10,000th tip of the hair. It's very difficult to measure what is the capacity of the soul. But for that we need knowledge. And then Prabhupada defines how the soul is eternally the part, and it has, it is not like an homogeneous mixture, that it is mixed up once it has been liberated. No, it holds its identity. Now, Prabhupada gives a very famous example that how there is a green parrot goes into a green tree. So what happens? Although there is the existence, the individual eternity existence between the green parrot and the green tree, but someone from outside, they may be thinking that they both are one. They both never are one. They both eternally exist as individual. So, again, Prabhupada gives another example of sunshine. There is, the sun globe is always emanating the sunshine. But within the sunshine, the sun and the sun god, they all are three different things. So similarly, there is the Brahman effulgence, there is the Paramatma, and there is the Bhagavan aspects of the Lord. And the Jiva is always an eternal fragment of the Lord. And Krishna says this in the Bhagavad-Gita, Mamai Vamso Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. These living entities are conditioned in this world, but they are my eternal fragmental parts. So, because we have misused our freedom, we are in a different consciousness that we are not able to identify that we are part and parcel of the Lord and we are servant of the Lord. Just a second, sorry. So Krishna is here again saying that soul cannot be destroyed at any point. And now how is bhakti helping us? Bhakti is helping us to change our desire. Why are we in this world? Because of two things. One is because of ichcha and the other one is because of the dvesha. One is our desire to lord it over, and the other one, the opposite of is dvesha, the hatred, that if our desire is not fulfilled, then we go into the hatred. So how is the illusionary energy capturing us? The illusionary energy is manifested in the jiva in this ichcha and dvesha. And because of this, it is creating a low-born desires. And what is that low-born desire? To lord it over the material nature. And what do you mean by lording over the material nature? To prove that I am great, to prove that I am God, to prove that I can control everything, and to prove that everyone should listen to me and I am the dictator. But there is a strong dichotomy between the modern scientific practices and religion. Because Prabhupada says religion without philosophy is sentiment or fanaticism. And while philosophy without religion is mental speculation. But what is happening today? There is higher education, but without God consciousness. There is a lot of philosophy going around, but there is no God consciousness. And people, they take up to religion, but they don't have a strong understanding of the philosophy. So how is this shloka is implementing to that? If we don't understand we are non-material, we run into only material conception of life, which enhances only more materialistic conditioning, which means we create problems for ourselves and others. We create anxieties for ourselves and others. So, Prabhupada says that you cannot have religion without philosophy. That is sentiment. And if you take simply philosophy without religion, without sense of God, that is mental speculation. But so, the religion should be placed on basis of science and logic. And this is first class religion. And what is religion? What is the simple definition of religion? To finding our true inner characteristic. That is religion. Jivera Swaropahai Krishnera Nityadas. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, every living entity is part and parcel of the Lord. But at the present moment, we got a different consciousness. So this is called Maya. So what are we doing in bhakti process? We are changing our desires. What happens if we don't change our desires? We are stuck in the whirlpool of threefold miseries. And result of that, we go for exploitation. And desires are innate. They are the symptom of the consciousness. They are the symptom of the soul. You cannot be stopped. You cannot stop them. But you can purify them. And material desires will lead to many material bodies. And its consequential problems. So purified desires are needed. But how can we purify our desires? By engaging in bhakti. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, I am not a Brahmana, I am not a Kshatriya, I am not a Vaishya, I am not a Sudra. I am not a Brahmachari, I am not a Sannyasi, I am not a Vanaprastha or Grihastha. But what I am just a servant of the servant of the servant of the gopis, whose master is Krishna. And we also see in the position of Srimati Radharani, Srimati Radharani is known as Madana Mohana Mohini. She conquers even Krishna. He is Madan Mohan, but she conquers him. But what is she doing? In that topmost position also, she says that these devotees are much better servants than me. In the spiritual life, when our desires are pure, we identify as a servant of the Lord. And that identification as a servant of the Lord will bring us freedom, will bring us compassion, will bring peace and harmony. And we will unite with Krishna, with his desire. And as the jivas, we are not Srimati Radharani, we are not Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So how do we do it? Brahma says in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Jnane prayaso udapasya namanta eva jivanti sanmukhartitam bhavati yavartam sthane stita shrutikatam tanvan manobhir ye prayaso ajito jita pi asitras trilokyam. So Brahma is saying, those who, even while remaining situated in their established social orders, throw away the process of speculative knowledge with their body, words and mind, offer all respects to descriptions of your personality and activities, dedicating their lives to these narrations, which are vibrated by you personally and by your pure devotees, certainly conquer your lordship, although you are otherwise unconquerable by anyone within the three worlds. So what is Brahma is saying? You be situated where you are. You perform actions in relation to Krishna. How? Tanvan. Tan means the body. Use your body to offer obeisances. He uses Jivanti San. He says Namanta Eva. You just offer obeisances with your body. And how do you use your words? One, you recite the Vedic literatures of the Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad-Gita, and also preach the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad-Gita. Manobhi. How do you use your mind? Engage your mind in reverence, and also take pleasure in hearing to the topics about the Lord. And by doing so, even we can conquer the most unconquerable. So Bhagavad-Gita confronts the issues between material and spiritual conceptions of life. So one side we see the material damage, and the other side we see what is the spiritual reality and how there is no damage done to the body. And how to harmonize both material and spiritual aspects is an expertise of the spiritual master and the Vedic culture. So in conclusion, if you see, Arjuna is asked here to fight the war so that dharma is established. What is this dharma? The real religion. Why this real religion is necessary? So people will take an advantage to turn to Krishna consciousness. Because there will be good leaders who will direct them towards taking to Krishna consciousness. And if Arjuna is not following Krishna's instruction, there is adharma going on. And if you see Duryodhana, he is envious of Krishna. He is envious and he wants to exploit, he wants to conquer. And that's why Krishna is telling Arjuna, you are a Kshatriya, you are on the social order. but you engage your actions for my purpose to establish dharma. And even this morning we were reading how Prabhupada was saying in London, March 10th, 1975. In this age, Kali Yuga, to kill demons means to stop their demonic tendencies by the weapons of the Kirtan, Hari Sankirtan, which is spread of Lord Chaitanya's associates. And what is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's desire? He's saying, Pritve achi yatar nagaradigram sarvatra prachara habe mora naam. So even this is the desire of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, saying that you spread the glories of the holy name. But if it's in the wrong hands, then what happens? Then everyone falls into a ditch. The materially attached people, they're pushing people to more material miseries. Today is an example of how the world is facing this crisis of the war. Why is the war in first place? Because someone wants to lord it over. Someone's exploitative mentality is so big that it's putting so many people in trouble. How important is to spread Krishna consciousness? How important is to establish this Sankirtan moment? And just by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, we can kill the demonic tendencies in ourselves and as well as the demonic tendencies in others. Otherwise, blind people are leading blind people. So, yeah, I finish here. If there are any questions or comments or corrections, I will be very happy to be corrected. Any question?
As you were speaking about the soul, so how a common man can understand the soul? Common man cannot understand, only devotees can understand. So how to make them understand that you are the soul, you are not the body?
By engaging them in bhakti. By engaging them in bhakti. Because I was also thinking about this point, like if I just say that I am a minute spirit particle, 100,000 part tip of a hair, I don't think so I can always remember this. But by just engaging in bhakti, what am I doing? I am acting, I'm learning how to act as a servant of Krishna. I'm learning how to serve Krishna and the Vaishnavas and engage in devotional service. Slowly that is tuning in. So even though we don't understand we are the spirit soul, but we are acting on the platform of what actually the spirit soul, the true nature of the spirit soul, that will bring us. And also bhakti gives both detachment and knowledge. They are the byproducts. So we may not be on the jnana platform when we start in the bhakti, but the jnana is the byproduct of the bhakti process. It will come. So people will understand. But again, we can also illustrate with different examples. One of the example is by showing the famous picture, how the body changes. Oftentimes, in book distribution, when you show this picture to people, the people will say that, yeah, I'm not this body because the body has been changing. And they also relate with how the mind was changing. But they say that, something is not changing. And then we say that is the soul. Another example is also like when someone leaves the body is there, but something is missing. So we can illustrate, but the best effective way is to engage them in the bhakti. Because that will give the ultimate knowledge. Because just knowing we are spirit soul is not enough. That knowledge is not just enough. We have to revive our true nature that we are the servant of Krishna. That will help. That's my understanding, Prabhu.
But the materialist people, they don't understand. How to make them understand? We can understand, but how to make them understand?
I don't think so. I still understand. If I do, then I won't act on the bodily concept either. So, yeah, it's a gradual process. Again, we have to spread the holy name, because the holy name has the potency to cleanse the heart. Chetudarpanamarjana. So there is some cleansing going on in our hearts. That's why we are able to understand. I remember once there was one of my friends, we were studying Bhakti-Shastri together. She is from China. And she was telling how that first time when she was reading Bhagavad-Gita, she was crying. And I was thinking, I never cried when I took Bhagavad-Gita first time in my hand. So there are different levels of consciousness. And it took me many, many times to read and understand, okay, we are the spiritual. Theoretically, something is feeded in the mind for us, at least for me. So bhakti is more effective. So if you find someone is more materialistic, give them prasadam, give them the holy name, give them Prabhupada's books. Yes, thank you, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhuji.
Like you said earlier in the starting that soul never dies.
Yes.
And material body has its end.
Yes.
That's definite.
Yes.
Everyone agrees on it. That's called death. And like in Krishna Leela, like Krishna kills so many demons, there are so many people dies. So what's your opinion about this? Like they actually die, or they are like just on soul level, like soul never dies. So that's a spiritual death or material death.
No, when Krishna is killing the demons also, you see that Krishna is helping them to get rid of their contaminated consciousness. You see, when Krishna killed Putana, the Putana's body, the material body is because of the karma, the past bad karma, right? But when Putana was killed, it is said that she got a position of nurse in the spiritual world. That means it is not that she carried that body.
I mean, those are the pastimes which happen in this Vrindavan. And the ultimate Vrindavan where the soul goes to join Krishna again in his Leela, whatever he may be in the spiritual world. So there the death happens. So actually, there is any connection of the soul, like it dies?
No, soul never dies, whether it's material or spiritual.
So that's just Leela, and they're just pretending to die.
It's not pretending to die, but you are getting relief of your bad body. I mean, the material body, not even bad body. It's just the material body. If you see the killing of Aghasura, actually the Aghasura, the spirit soul, the Aghasura soul comes out of, and then it waits for some time and then goes into Krishna. That doesn't mean that it became one with Krishna, but it actually entered into Krishna, so that it entered into the spiritual world. And even the same thing with Jay and Vijay, you see. Because of their curse, they've fallen into the material world and they got a very envious consciousness. And it is manifested over 3 lifetimes. Hiranyaksha, Hiranyakashipu, and Ravana Kumbhakarna, and Dantavakra and Shishupal. But when Krishna killed, they actually regained back their positions as Jay and Vijay. So it is a material covering that is over the soul. Any other questions or comments?
This spirit soul, this is the fundamental of everything actually. This soul does not depend upon the body, whereas the body depends upon the soul. When the soul leaves the body actually, the body becomes dead actually.
Yes.
It depends upon the soul.
Right. Yes. Yeah, everything is dependent on the soul. Yeah. And also we see that the desire of the soul. Why is this material world manifested? Because in the first place we want to enjoy, we want to be separately wanting to enjoy.
That's a separate explanation actually.
Yeah.
Basically the Prabhuji actually...
Yes.
Yeah, I got like very nice explanation about that.
Prabhuji actually, you are just actually mingling the two things, body and soul together actually. But body depends upon the soul. Soul does not depend upon the body. When the soul leaves the body actually, the body becomes dead actually, immediately.
Right.
Body, Prabhupada says, body is always dead. Either it is soul is living inside this body or not living.
No.
Soul never dies.
It reflects the consciousness of the soul actually. When the soul is inside the body actually, it pervades the entire body actually. And one can knows the presence of soul by the consciousness of that. It is there. When body is not conscious actually, it means there is no soul actually. The dead body cannot have, dead body is not having any conscious actually. It is dead.
Right, yes. Thank you, Prabhu. If there are no questions or comments, we'll end here. Thank you so much. Please forgive me for all my shortcomings. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.